Hi guys, I want you to visualize just this. Yeah, what I usually do overall on any given day. Um, it's pouring. I am holding a torch. I am holding an umbrella. I have my camera on my neck, and I'm walking in a dense forest. It's pouring, and I'm trying to listen to a frog call. Yeah, so I try to keep my umbrella on my shoulder, tuck my torch on my armpit, and try to cup my ear to see if I can hear this frog. And this is what most of the time I do. And this is what really brings me joy. I have been doing this for over 2 decades. And this really is something that I think I enjoy the most. My name is Sachin Rai. I am from Bombay. I'm born and brought up in the outskirts of Bombay in a place called Dombivli. I've lived all my life there, and I come from not from a plush family, from a middle class family. So when I was growing up, I did not even have even the wildest imagination that I could someday become a wildlife photographer. Not even remotely possible. This was a place, but I was always an enthusiastic child who wanted to learn about wildlife, like most of us are. Almost all of us as a child are connected to wildlife in a certain way. Nature attracts us. We are very curious. And so was I. I wanted to see tadpoles. I wanted to see crabs. I wanted to see various birds. I didn't understand much, but it did excite me. But never in my wildest imagination did I think that there could be a possibility of me getting into this stream. Never in the wildest imagination. So when I was studying, I got into college. I started learning computers. I'm talking about 25 years ago, more than 25 years, 30 years ago. In fact, even when I went for career counseling, never was I told that this is possible, even as a passion. Forget about taking it up as a career. Because back then, honestly, there weren't many photographers per se, wildlife photographers, I mean. It was a growing era. Internet had just come into the country. And thankfully, because of the skills of computers, I ended up getting a job pretty soon. And I kind of had money in my hand. And I was trying to figure out what could I possibly do with this money. And that's when I joined an excursion by WWF. They used to do these nature trails, and I ended up joining one of their tours. I was barely 20 something, and I was blown away with the information that the leader, the group leader, or the naturalist shared. Basic things. While it was in a place like Sundarbans, which is in West Bengal, and you have a sizable population of tiger there, but we were there for 5 days, we didn't see any tiger. You're on a boat going in a small canal. It's not easy to see tigers there, but it's a brilliant place for birds. And that is where it was an eye opener when very simple things were told to me. Like, he asked me a very phenomenal question. He asked me, "You've seen two birds throughout your life, a crow and a sparrow." And he asked me, "Can you tell me one difference between these two, apart from shape, size, color, eating habit, nesting habit?" And I was like, "There's nothing left. What else is there?" He's like, "Try and think of something that is pretty unique between these two birds that you've seen throughout the lifetime." I kept scratching my head thinking, what else could it be? Because any of the thing that we think is going to boil down to these 4 or 5 characters, that is color, size, shape, vocalization, nesting behavior, mating behavior, food. And that's when I realized, or rather, that's when he corrected me and said, "Ki, a crow can walk and a sparrow can't." And that was an eye opener. I was like, my God, I knew that sparrows hop, but I had never seen that. And that is when I realized, there's so much to learn out here that it'll be very fascinating. So I started doing these tours very regularly. I saw someone with a very basic point and shoot camera, and I was like, man, this is super cool. Imagine if we capture a behavior of an animal, or a spider that people have not seen, or frogs that for matter. So all of these was very overwhelming. And I decided to invest in a camera, and I bought myself a camera and a lens. And that's how it began. I just started doing tours left, right, and center. I would go out almost every month, spend a lot of money, spend a lot of time, go to different parts of the country. And I realized there's so much that this country has to offer, so much. Very unique places, like Northeast is phenomenal. Western Ghats is amazing. You have Central India, which is very great for tigers. You have Northwest, which is brilliant in terms of landscape. You have coastal regions. You have snow-clad mountains. It was just insane what I could do with the newfound passion. So I would travel all across. And sooner or later, I started spending more time doing that than my job. My job was an IT. I'm an IT guy. I used to design websites when internet just come in. It was a big thing back then. So when I started, and I loved my job. I thoroughly enjoyed my job. But I realized that I like to spend more time in the forest doing this. Um, and sooner, thankfully, what had happened is back then, earlier we had cameras which were film cameras. So you couldn't even review your picture. You take a picture and you come back to Bombay. We had a small setup in close to Haji Ali where we used to develop our film. And almost 5, 6 days later after you shoot is when you get to see a picture. But that is the best that we knew. We did not even know that there could be a day where I could get myself a camera, where when DSLRs came in, that is digital SLRs came in, where you could take a picture and review it instantly. That was just mind blowing because we had not even thought of it when I had started photography. So two brilliant things that happened with me as my grew in photography was that the digital era came into existence, which gave two superb buttons. One is a review button, so you know if you made crap pictures or good pictures. The second was the delete button. It was magical that you can just delete your bad pictures without feeling bad. Because before that, all the pictures that you would produce would cost you money. So this was a lovely era to experiment, to learn, and evolve as a photographer. And this is the time that I'm talking about when we didn't have social media. The only way that you could get recognition or get your picture to the world was by publishing pictures. So we had only one magazine called Sanctuary Asia back then. It is a wildlife magazine. It still continues. It's Bombay-based, but the circulation is throughout the country. And they have something called, Sanctuary Asia Wildlife Photography Award. And it was a big thing for us initially when we came into wildlife photography, to be even remotely to think that this is what you could aim to, or this is something that you could possibly get into or win an award. It was just insane. And thankfully in the year 2007, I won both the first and the second award. And that changed my perspective. I thought, I am probably getting better at what I'm doing. And that is when people started approaching me, asking me if they can join me on tours, come with me, learn photography. So before that, I was just loitering around, doing things what I enjoyed the most, going to remote parts, trying to see anything and everything. I went around the world, on my own before I even got into this as a profession. I've been to remote corners. I went to extreme Russia. I've been to Madagascar, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Brazil, Costa Rica. You name it, wherever there is wildlife, I've been there. And that really, really brought me joy. But I realized that I may not be able to make a career out of this because this, honestly, in India, there is nothing called professional wildlife photographer because you don't get as much commissioned work. So the only possibility was for me to be able to teach. So I take people out on photography tours. They come with me to remote parts and I teach them photography in the field. And that's how I earn my bread and butter. But saying that, I also get to travel to different places, explore different regions, see different wildlife. And that still brings me a lot of joy. So as a wildlife photographer, what really, really works with us is that we try and portray our pictures to you if you haven't been there yet. If your exposure to wildlife is only limited to a magazine or a zoo, then my job is to bring that picture to you. My job is to make you connect with that. So there are ways to make these pictures so that you can come and show it to the world. One, of course, is the classical portraits where you just make portraits and it just speaks. You don't have to do much, and the picture itself, because high intensity, there is an eye contact, and it's staring at you. There is intent. There is some drama in the picture. So that's how portraits work. It's pretty easy to make pictures of this, because if the animal is looking at you, your job is done. You just need a long lens and make a portrait. So it's, most of the photographers who evolve will evolve from this stage of making portraits. Then eventually they go to emotions, where you're ideally looking for opportunities where you could possibly control or take pictures of images that depict emotion. Yeah? And now that could be anything. It just speaks. You don't have to do much, and the picture itself, because high intensity, there is an eye contact, and it's staring at you. There is intent. There is some drama in the picture. So that's how portraits work. It's pretty easy to make pictures of this, because if the animal is looking at you, your job is done. You just need a long lens and make a portrait. So it's, most of the photographers who evolve will evolve from this stage of making portraits. Then eventually they go to emotions, where you're ideally looking for opportunities where you could possibly control or take pictures of images that depict emotion. Yeah? And now that could be anything, like a mother and child, in the sense a bear and a cub. um, this will trigger a little emotion when people look at it. Um, Anything, a tigress snarling when she saw a ranger approach on a bike. She was not very happy because she was raising 3 small cubs. And you realize that the cubs are happy. They are chilling about it. It's the mother who's not very happy with the guy's presence. So there could be emotional story, like this wildebeest, pregnant wildebeest, whose calf was dead inside, so she couldn't deliver. And we know for a fact that she would have died in the next couple of days. Now, it is slightly easy for me to connect with you all with a picture like this, because then there is some trigger that that emotion will bring, or a death for that matter. It's not very easy to see this in the wild. It's not easy at all. You see an animal dying in front of you, but how much ever you tell yourself it's nature, it's bound to happen, it's gruesome, because you're not used to it. We are not used to seeing this on a daily basis. Animals are. They're absolutely okay with this. When I say not okay dying, but they're okay witnessing this, because this is day in, day out what they see. But these are the pictures that can possibly connect or bring in a small emotion in you. Then it's better that as a photographer you try to show their world, because then you also know where does the animal belong. Like imagine a massive rhinoceros humbled by just the grass around it. Can you imagine how tall the grass is? It's at least 12 to 13 feet. These are elephant grass in Assam, in a place called Kaziranga. It's one of the finest places to see the Indian rhinoceros. But pictures like these will bring the scale onto the image, where you can imagine, oh, it's not just a tight portrait, and this is the world that they live in, and this is their home. You know, a desert fox from Rajasthan. These are ravines which are unfortunately flattened now, called as wastelands. But this is where these animals live: hyenas, caracals, these foxes, scorpions, you name it. It's a micro habitat on its own. And these animals are dependent on that area. So to be able to make a picture and to show what kind of habitat these animals share, like the grasslands here, you can see half a dozen rhinos and a tiger loitering about. That's what their home is. This is Brazil. This is jaguars love, as large cats, they love water. They like spending time in water, and they try and catch smaller crocodiles. These crocodiles are called caimans. Caiman. They're much smaller in size, but still around 6 feet long. And jaguars love to go jump into the water and catch these caimans. So it's pretty fascinating to just see this jaguar swim about with just the head out and with the whiskers pointing forward. Just to witness all this is just beyond magical. The home, imagine the home, two large adult lions on a massive tree that's fallen, rain. There are certain times it's God-given. You can't plan and go do wildlife photography. It's God-given. It's there's some divine intervention that you're there at the right time. All you have to do is do justice. You have to pick the right equipment and ask yourself, what is it that I'm going to show today? If this is the scene that's in front of me, am I going to make a portrait? Am I going to tell the story? Or am I going to wait for something like this to happen? So this is what their world is about. Yeah? Again, very interestingly, these flowers, they grow only on rhino poop. So wherever rhinos poop, rhinos are like antelopes. They're very closely related to antelopes. What you have in your campus, the blue bull, the nilgai, is an antelope. And you'll realize they poop more or less at the same place. All of them have communal toilets. So it's a heap of dung that you see. And rhinos do exactly the same. Rhinos have communal toilets. So if I'm passing by as a rhino, I see a heap of poop, I have to poop there. I can't just randomly poop anywhere. So they eat a certain plant which has flowers, and these flowers grow only on rhino poop. And that makes an interesting foreground for an elephant in that landscape. Water, water is the life of forest. So you have everything from a tiger to a snake, plus frogs, plus amphibious animals. It is, which is why I often say, and I'm not tired of saying this, it's just immensely beautiful. Any of the wild places, if you just have the zeal to walk about, if not a safari, even if it's in the campus, you will see so many animals around. Look at the habitat, or look at the place in which tigers live across the country. This is from Corbett. Brilliant mountain landscapes, fresh river. This is the same place where we can see gharials. Gharials are one of the crocodilian species which is critically endangered, and we say less than 1,000 probably survive in the wild. We have the largest population, that is India. We also have this in Nepal. But a place like this is heaven for wildlife photographers. Then comes a point where you want to tell a story or action. Action is something where you don't have to convey a story. You see, and you say, oh my God, what is this, right? Like these two rat snakes battling it out. A lot of people assume they're mating, they're not. These are two males combating, they're basically wrestling. They're trying to push the other opponent down. Imagine a snake that can bite. It doesn't bite its opponent. They just wrestle. They just dance with both of them going as high as possible and trying to push the other opponent down. So it's a wrestling match. And whoever wins gets the mating right for the female nearby. So the females release pheromones from which the males know that she's produced eggs and she's ready to mate, is when these guys go and fight. So these can be storytelling images. This is from Borneo, the Malaysian part of Borneo. It's a pygmy elephant. It's different from the Asiatic elephants. And the flood water has got a tube light there. In the wild, imagine, it's picked up a tube light. And she didn't know, the elephant. And she actually burst it open. And she got spooked also. She dropped it and she ran off. But imagine the impact that we leave behind. So these can be kind of storytelling images where you share this with the world, that this is what happens. Peafowls mating, hardly anyone know. There are various folklores about this, that they don't mate in the wild, and the male drinks the tear of the female, and that's how she gets pregnant. But that's not true. Peafowls do mate. So point is, all of these can be storytelling. This is a palace. This used to be a hunting palace. Kings used to sit here, have sip tea, then go in the evening, shoot a tiger nearby. This is in Ranthambore. And today, thanks to the protection by the Indian government for the last 45 years, we have tigers breeding in a place like this. So these can be storytelling images. A tiger stalking a deer out in the open. You don't have to talk much. Just the picture will do the talking, right? So while you have a picture which is storytelling, you can also have a picture which is action. So the previous one is just a storytelling, crisp image, blah, blah, blah. But here is when you depict motion. And motion depiction is where action is. So a storytelling image where a mother tigress is carrying a fawn, a deer's baby. She's killed it for her own cub. This one is called Sukhi Patiya from Bandhavgarh. And she had 3 tiny cubs at this time. And we saw her carry this thing. But what is more impactful is when you see it jump or chase an animal. That is more intense. So these can be the action images that we talk about. And that's precisely what I do. So as a wildlife photographer, all I do is go out there, uh, wait for anything to happen. Sometimes things don't happen for days. Sometimes a lot of things happen in a day. And I sincerely hope that when I bring these images back, there is a certain way that I will be able to help people out there who are not doing this day out to be able to connect just with nature. Forget about not being associated with large animals, even spiders, frogs, mushrooms, anything. If I could possibly connect that with you all, that's what I enjoy the most. Thank you so much.